Hello there, guys. Morning, right guy. Hope you're doing well, mate. Right. You just make sure audio is looking all good. I think it is. Yeah, all good with me. All good with me. Just been watching some euro downside today, actually. Was looking at early short positions down around this 1.0742 handle. Been watching this kind of build up in and around this area as we head into that ECB interest rate decision. Yeah, so it's going to be very, very interesting. Obviously, we had a big day yesterday. This is the daily chart of euro US dollar up here. We can see that we had a very, very strong bearish day after that CPI data in the US came out. Something that we spoke about yesterday as well, just in terms of the fact that the everything in the US has been sort of growing essentially. Obviously there is some underlying areas that aren't, so small businesses, things like that, they're really feeling the pressure of the higher interest rates at the moment. But from a dollar perspective, we had sort of growth in employment, NFP. Obviously we've had some growth in inflation now, and it begs the question, when were the Fed going to cut rates? And I think it's put that question of June out the window now, and that's why we've seen this US dollar strength in the market. I was actually dollar Swiss long, so we spoke about dollar Swiss earlier in the week, and I really like the idea of being dollar Swiss long this week. Ended up taking some profits as we kind of breached into these highs here. Let me just put this on the 4-hour chart. So basically what I'm looking at here is, this is the 15-minute time frame, just showing you sort of the setup of today and what's kind of going on in terms of price action. We've got the daily chart here on the left hand top corner, where we've got that sort of nice strong bullish push up there, and this is the 4-hour time frame. I do a lot of my support and resistance from this 4-hour time frame. I like to identify these support and resistance zones, highs and lows, and I like to try and work within those. So yeah, it was basically long dollar Swiss. If you watch the technical outlook video on the YouTube channel this week, basically for all those reasons, the way currencies tend to move is one currency is stronger than the other, right? That's what creates a trend, pretty simple. But one thing that helps kind of create that narrative is the difference between central banks and the difference between interest rates. And obviously we've seen the Swiss National Bank cut interest rates. We have seen the dollar or the Fed potentially at a hold. So there's a difference between interest rates there. That creates an opportunity for a trader. That means that we can potentially buy the currency that has a higher interest rate and sell the currency that has a weaker one. Good for swap charges as well, good for the carry trade. So yeah, dollar Swiss longs were definitely something I really like the look of going into this week. Was exiting positions around this 0.9047 area. Could have actually executed a little bit better than that, and then obviously CPI data kind of fulfilled that move there. I'm out of positions at the moment, waiting to see what happens, obviously, in terms of the US dollar. If we head up to the dollar index, seeing how that is positioned at the moment. This was the area that we talked about on Tuesday, this 104 level. I said this is probably going to be a sticking point for price, and if price holds here, it could be a place where dollar buyers start to come back into the market. Obviously CPI was the catalyst that brought that together, and now we're trading above the 105s, above the 104.90s, which were these kind of previous highs here. So yeah, big dollar move at the moment. Is that going to put pressure on euro dollar as well? That's what we're going to discuss today. Hi CG, hope you're doing well. Milo, thank you for joining. Vincent, good afternoon to you as well. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing really well, thank you. It's been a good week. It's been a good week so far. I'm looking to see if there's any kind of opportunities for us elsewhere as well. I'm keeping a close eye on gold, keeping a close eye on oil as well, because still like those particular markets. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit under pressure because we've had a very strong US dollar at the moment as well, which is going to put those commodities under a bit of pressure, but there are other fundamentals driving that particular market. But let's go look at euro. Let's go take a look at euro. What's going on in the euro US dollar at the minute? Obviously, big interest rate decision coming up today. We've got the ECB potentially holding interest rates, or well, say potentially, they are going to hold 4.5%. I don't see them cutting rates, especially with the inflation rate in Europe being around 2.4% at the moment. I don't see them cutting today. What we could see from the ECB, though, and especially from President ⵍαγκարդe, is a dovish tone. We could say that, you know, she's going to hold, but it comes with that sort of dovish language where, you know, a June cut is something that is being priced in potentially. So that could obviously create a little bit of downside. What we have to figure out as well is that move priced in already? That's what we've got to be a little bit careful of. Obviously, if we do see any kind of miss in terms of what happens if the ECB cut in this meeting, then I think that would shock the markets, and I think the euro dollar could continue to trade to the downside. If we look at this daily chart up here, we can see that we've got a really nice level of support coming in at 1.07, and if we breach that to the downside, then we're looking at sort of these lows throughout this period. So you've got lows towards that 1.0550, or you've got lows towards that 1.0460, which were the main lows that formed back in October of 2023. So gearing up for this, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. What do you think is going to happen today? Do you think the ECB are going to cut interest rates? What's your feelings around euro dollar? Do you expect euro dollar to decline, or are you expecting a sort of shock in the market? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'll keep euro dollar on a 15-minute time frame here, so you'll be able to see that, and we'll see what the reaction is. Where will price go? I've marked out a couple of 15-minute highs and lows. I was on a call with my dad this morning. We both trade, and we were looking at potential shorts here today, and the market came nicely down into these lows. So we're positioning at the moment. The market is consolidating before the event, so looking to see how this will progress. But yeah, let me know what you think, guys. Bongo, I'm expecting a shock pullback, and then we sell. Okay, so expecting a bit of a shock, maybe a move back up towards these 15-minute highs potentially. Right, guys, thinking euro to the downside. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, do the ECB do anything different in terms of with regards to reacting to the inflation data out of the US as well? We also have to potentially consider that. We also have important data actually coming out from the US shortly after, so don't be too hasty to jump into anything yet, because we do have core PPI coming up, PPI month on month, which is was actually forecast coming a little bit lower. And what I'm really interested in are the members, the FOMC members as well. Are they going to follow the same sort of talk of this is a reason why we need to hold off right now because of the inflationary pressures? Do they talk about the ability to cut anymore? You know, what's that kind of language going to be like from these FOMC members? I think that's going to give us a big insider view of what could potentially happen here. So interestingly enough, we've got 4 minutes to the event. Price is seeing a little bit of downside movement. You know, where do we think we're going to be, guys? Do you think we're going to be above 1.0750, or do you think we're going to be way below? Let me know. Right, guys, I don't expect anything to happen until core PPI unless the ECB cut rates. Yeah, that could be something to consider as well. That's what I think the big shock is. I think the big shock is if we get the cut right now. I don't think we will. Like I said in an earlier video, the market's only pricing in a 4% chance of a cut today. So I have to keep that into considerations. Be interesting to see the dollar data, though. How will that affect gold? We'll take a look at that going into that as well. But guys, if you're If you think that the euro dollar is going to break to the downside, let me know. Look at this. What's interesting is looking at the price action ahead of the event as well. Yesterday, before the US CPI data, we actually saw euro dollar rallying, and then obviously CPI came out, dollar dropped, dollar strengthened, euro dollar declined. We've had a bit of a downside or a bit of a balanced day so far, consolidating in this period. Nobody wants to take action just yet, so we shall see. But yeah, breaches at this level, we've got 1.07 underneath, and a few other levels as well. Just bring it back. Mr. Tucson, my guess, 30 pip drop in EU on news now, then a rally with 1.0740-ish, then a nice drop back. Yeah, so a little bit of range bound movement potentially. You could argue that these two events could potentially cancel each other out until 3:15, because then you've got ECB President Lagarde actually speaking at that point. So, and the press conference at 32 minutes or 30 minutes after this event. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this has any impact on sort of gold prices as well. Obviously, the US data will. And, US data has been hotter than expected recently. So I think another miss on the upside in core PPI could compound this dollar strength that we've seen. And PPI, obviously, we see a miss to the upside there. So we've got 2 minutes to go, minute to go. The important thing as well, let me know if you guys, do you trade news? Do you trade the news? It's very interesting. I never trade news directly. Never trade it directly. I always wait to see if there's a big reaction, if it comes into any kind of major key swing points. I'll have a look at something at that point. But I never trade news directly. I was dollar Swiss long before the CPI event, even the day before the CPI event. So yep, Vincent doesn't trade news. I'm with you on that, Vincent. I mean, it can be fun if you're using sort of a demo account, have a little play around with trying to trade the news event. I think that's the smart thing to do. I think if you want to trade news, maybe have a demo account set up and have a little play. You might find there's a potential edge somewhere. I just think that news is very difficult to trade just on its own. That's why I think you've got to have a very overall approach to trading the market. You've got to have a so we're seeing a little rally. Okay, so we should be seeing the event come out 4.5%, deposit facility rate 4%. No big real shocks there right now. Let's see where price ends up moving towards. So interesting that it rallied before the data was announced. So be interested to see how this affects euro dollar, because that's a very expected move. Starting to see that downside move coming in now. Whether that will be sustained, it will be the other question. So in news events like this as well, I also like to have sort of other tabs open. I think it's always good to kind of watch your Bloombergs, which you can do for free. on YouTube, but you know, you've got tradingeconomics.com as well. So headline out of that, ECB to signal readiness to cut interest rates. So we've got some potential data coming out there. I don't know how fresh that news is. Just on the headlines. Another one as well, which I quite like, Forex Live. Forex Live, always good to keep you updated very quickly. Yeah, very, very, very expected data right now. Not seeing the big decline as you would have expected, essentially, from a hold like that. I think this is where it's going to be interesting, because we've got the announcement and then we've got this data here. You know, is that more positioning for this, you know, this data to come out? But we're coming into a key area. You know, this daily chart shows us that we've got these lows down towards this 1.07 handle. This is where I think a nice target, if you are short euro dollars at the moment, euro against the dollar at the minute, this is a good area to consider taking some position out at that point. What else can we see across the board? WTI starting to pick up a little bit. I like the idea of being a buyer on WTI. Gold looking okay. Watching gold for some upside at the moment as well. That's going to depend on that US dollar data that comes out in a little bit. But yeah, that wasn't a massive range, was it? About a 15 pip drop. Nothing amazing there. And this is what is good about not trading news, essentially. I think a lot of people would have been looking at that going, oh yeah, they're holding interest rates and could be potentially dovish. Let's try and short euro dollar, and they could be stuck in a position right now. I'll be interested if we break back above this area. So this consolidation that we've recently breached here, if we saw a price climb above this and back above it, then I think we'd probably go and try and take out the other side. So London highs came in around about 1.0749 or 750. If I just move this 15-minute tag up to here, I think that would be a very interesting opportunity if price kind of came back within that area, came in, and then maybe traded to the upside. You know, I'm a big fan as well of the 50 moving average. You know, if price can stay below the 50, then it could lead to a little bit more downside as well. But if we breach it to the upside significantly, then we might try and come and fill a little bit of this CPI gap that happened. But yeah, I'll be interested to see if that can happen. Alternatively, like I said, this daily support zone down here might cause a little bit of profit taking. Vincent, one thing I have observed with currency strength meter is that when a currency is getting weaker, most news releases help it weaken, and vice versa. Yeah, well, we've got to understand that a lot of the way price trades from a bigger picture point of view is all based off the overall fundamentals of a market. It's all based off of essentially what is a central bank doing? Where are they? What is it down to? Sort of inflation rates, growth, employment, essentially, was what it comes down to. And if you have an economy that is, let's say, shrinking, you know, poor employment, poor GDP growth, low inflation rate, then that currency should technically weaken due to the potential of the central bank cutting rates. And this is the argument that's going on at the moment. The argument around rates at the minute is a little bit more to do with, you know, prices or sort of price being high essentially, or the market being sort of overvalued essentially. It's not usually we see cuts happening in terms of economic downturns, so in terms of like recessions and things like that. That's not the case at the moment. When you look at the broader picture, especially in the US, in other places it is different. Europe's a little bit different, potentially in the UK as well in terms of GDP, or that did climb above 50, the last release. But yeah, definitely an interesting one. What do you think of the 20-day moving average? Yeah, I used to use the 20 moving average on a daily chart. One of the first strategies I ever was taught when I very first got into trading was a 20, 50 and a 100 moving average, and I'd wait for price to come above the 20, close below it, and then I'd look for short positions on trends or longs, depending on which way the averages were all spaced out at that point. Yeah, don't knock it. I actually think if you look at the correlation between the 20 moving average and pound pairs, it can be very good. So maybe that's something to have a little look at, Ragai. The 20 moving average on pound pairs. I like the 50. I think the 50 gives you a little bit more of a medium term outlook, and I like to look at it in terms of momentum, how price is sort of with it as well. So let's come back to Euro in a minute. Yeah, Vincent, can you go over the other majors? Yeah, absolutely. So let's just flick back up to the dollar index. Like I said, we've got a little bit of dollar data coming out shortly. We've got the PPI data coming out, which is going to have a big impact on what happens to the US dollar. We're seeing a little bit of a dollar rally at the moment, so maybe that's in anticipation of a weaker PPI number. So we have to be a little bit aware of that. But I like the idea of the dollar obviously continuing up to 106. I think we talked about this a while ago. I said a breach of sort of 104.50 would lead me to a move up towards 106s. We didn't get that initially. Price, nosedived essentially, and I was very much looking like I was definitely in the wrong at that point. Since then, the dollar has recovered. We've seen a big rally in the dollar, and 106s are looking good again, but price needs to be sustained above this level. And if you're going to be trading your majors, you really need to be keeping an eye on your US dollar index as well. Now that we've kind of got that sort of free range, could the dollar index head up towards 106s? That means you really want to be selling sort of the likes of euro, dollar, pound potentially, although we are coming into some big levels of support and resistance. Aussie US dollar is an interesting one. This market has stayed fairly range bound at the moment, so yeah, very, very difficult market to try and sort of get onto in terms of any kind of long-term trend, because there isn't one. So me as well, I like ranges, clear defined levels of support and resistance that you can look to trade between. So you've got these lows and highs down here. So if we were to see a little bit more downside in the Aussie US dollar, then you could anticipate maybe some kind of buy-ins come back in at the lows of the range here. Hi Percy, hope you're doing well. But yeah, look at the 15-minute. This is a good sort of thing to look at. I always look at highs and lows, right? So you can see that we formed a high in and around here. I'll just change the template on this, make sure they're the same. So clear defined high here, which is something that I like to look at. I always then go and look at lows. So we've got this low down through here, for instance, that could be of target in case price did start to sell off. Let's close this back up again. But essentially, I asked myself, if I want to be involved with this market, where would I want to be involved? Where's the areas of interest? Now, obviously, we've got the US data coming out in 5 minutes, so I don't want to be involved with any dollar pair right now. But let's say that news wasn't coming out, then I'd be looking at these swing highs and these swing lows as areas where I'd want to potentially do business with the market. So we're consolidating here right now. Consolidations are great as well, because that tells me that buyers and sellers are active within this area, and that they think that this is fair value right now. If we drive out of that area, retest it, could that be the signal that kind of pushes price down towards the current sort of lows of the day, which still that sort of Asia range lows, around about 𝖤65 handle. And you can see on the 4-hour time frame on the left hand side here, not really seeing much bullish price action here right now. That could change obviously with that data coming up shortly, but those lows looking like good targets for some potential opportunities there. Kiwi is an interesting one. Kiwi US dollar, obviously we had the RBNZ interest rate decision. They're kind of going to keep rates a little bit higher. So in that kind of capacity, you've got two kind of central banks at higher rates, keeping them for longer at the moment. So in theory, we should see Kiwi dollar sort of remain a little bit range bound. Obviously, it's still susceptible to that sort of dollar strength, and you can see we're not really created too much here. I did say if price stays below the 𝖤6050 handle, then it could see a little bit more bearishness. We were trying to break it at one point, and now we're kind of trading back to the downside again. But looking at the daily, looking at the 4-hour, I like the idea of these lows being tested. And if price holds it, then maybe we're going to see a little bit more opportunity there. Dollar CAD, like dollar CAD, upside. Now we've breached 136. 136 was the sticking point for the market, and now we've seen that sort of breakout there, very similar to sort of the dollar index in a way. But that could be a catalyst to move higher. Bank of Canada actually essentially potentially cutting rates in June. They've come out and stated that there is a good potential for that to happen. They held rates yesterday, and again, you think about the difference between those central banks. Bank of Canada potentially going to cut rates in June. The Fed, that's pretty much off the table. So could dollar CAD trade higher because of that? Is that a trading opportunity for us? So I like the potential dollar CAD upside. Would I be long here? No. Obviously, I would like to see price kind of trend back a little bit first. Maybe a retest of 136 on the other side could be something potential for us as well. But again, differences in central bank rhetoric there could create a trading opportunity. So I do quite like dollar CAD. Too quick, how often do you go live? I go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Milo, pound US dollar, opinion. Yeah, cable's an interesting one. Obviously, we've got some Bank of England announcements coming up at the end of this week. Well, tomorrow. We're at 125.50 at the moment. Do I see a little bit more downside potentially to 125? Currently, trader reports were very bearish as well. At the moment, a lot of selling going on of cable or of pound futures at the moment. So yeah, very, very much in a little bit of a range here, though, aren't we? If you look at the price action on a daily chart, where's your value essentially in cable at the moment? I don't see it here right now. I don't see the point in getting short right now here. If price was rallying back up to 127 and we were rejecting around 127, yes, because my reward to risk is better at that point. That back down towards the 125.50. But really speaking, the space for cable to the downside is below 125. If we trade below 125, which is the sort of low of this daily range here, then that would be something I'd be interested in as well. So I can see the US dollar news has dropped, so we'll go jump on that in a second. Mr. Tucson, if the US dollar news is positive, we might hit 106 today. Seems market wants it new highs on US dollar. Yeah, we saw the dollar try and break higher before the data, which is always interesting to me. I always think, does that mean that they're pushing price to try and get bash my glasses in? Does that mean they're pushing price to try and get a better value essentially? So let's dive into this. Core PPI 0.2%. That swings it again, doesn't it? It swings it again, 0.2% here on PPI, which is now very, very interesting. Jobless claims, 1817. An initial jobless claims up to 211, but we did get a revision here of 222. So that's not necessarily bullish dollar, in my opinion, especially with the PPI numbers. Now, if we take a look at PPI, is the US Producer Price Index, and this is the one that the Fed like to look at as well. So just to kind of give you a synopsis, if you don't know what it is, the Producer Price Index measures a change of input in prices of raw, semi-finished or finished products of goods and services. If it rises, some will be absorbed by the producer and some passed on to the consumer. Conversely, if input costs fall, some of the decline will be enjoyed as wider profit margins by the producer, and some will be passed on to the consumer in the form of lower prices. So what it means really is a reading that is stronger than forecast is generally supportive or bullish for the US dollar, while a weaker one is a little bit more negative. So if we take a look at what I like to look at as well is sort of the trend of these as well, and it's been a bit mixed, hasn't it? The highest that we've seen recently is 0.7%, which was back in September of 2023. This one has come in at 0.2%, so a little bit lower than previous as well. So 0.6 was the previous reading, so that's shown a little bit of a decline there, which I think would be a little bit more of a welcomed relief from what we saw yesterday with CPI. So if we go back up to the US dollar index now, we can see that we're kind of pulling back here, aren't we? We've seen that a little bit more of a bearish reaction. So like I said, I like the idea of seeing the fact that the dollar could reach 106. I actually think the Fed members speech in a bit is what we need to really keep our eyes on. So we've got Member Williams speaking in 12 minutes. The language from that FOMC member is going to be very important. What are they focusing on is what we need to look at. And obviously we've got Member Bostic speaking a little bit later today. That's 6:30 GMT. And obviously we've got ECB coming up. So a lot of events that could drive prices at the minute. Seeing gold prices rally off the back of this as well. Not really sustained rallying, but we're seeing a little bit of a rally coming from it at the moment. Just having a quick look at oil as well. Yeah, seeing a little bit of upside. So we'll come on to those in a moment. But yeah, euro dollar now back above that range. This is where I think it could be interesting, euro dollar above this range. But now we've got ECB President Lagarde coming up. So very difficult trading conditions. If you're trying to trade this price action, I wish you luck. Percy, do you Euro Kiwi continue being bullish on the daily charts? Yeah, I can go take a look at Euro Kiwi, no problem. Was a US dollar to the upside. Let's have a quick flick down. Dollar yen's obviously a very interesting picture at the moment. Obviously, CPI drove dollar yen above this 152 handle. Not necessarily direct yen weakness right now. The yen is a little bit weaker, obviously, but that CPI pushed it over the edge. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see if that downside can be sustained, because we've got these kind of 4-hour lows in here and this kind of 4-hour high situation going on. But if I sync that into the layout there, let me take a look at the 15-minute time frame. You know, these lows could be quite interesting to have a little look at in terms of opportunities. I'll see how price reacts there, because now price is above 152. I quite like a little bit of further upside on dollar yen. So we'll come back to that one. Dollar Swiss pulling back a little bit. It's a good job I banked profits on that one. Let's go to Euro Kiwi then. I haven't looked at Euro Kiwi in a moment. So, okay, so daily chart. This one up here. So yeah, daily chart looks fairly bullish, doesn't it? You've got a nice little breakout there. Recently traded above these kind of key swing highs at 1.79, and now we're back into that zone of support. So essentially what I'm looking at is that kind of bearish down candle there. And if I sync that into the layout, it's this sort of zone through here. You've got that nice push up, push back down. I would just be watching this now. On a 15-minute time frame, depends on how you trade essentially. But if I was to start seeing sort of bullish price action out of my 15 minutes. So maybe a break of this trend line resistance through here, maybe a change in that sort of structure. That to me could be a sign that this could be a higher low forming on the 4-hour time frame, and that could obviously then lead to a potential rally in price. So yeah, that's definitely something I like the thought of as well. So potentially bullish there, Percy. Just keep an eye on it. You know, at the moment, if we're looking at it in terms of technical phases, you've got sort of secondary phase, primary phase, secondary phase. You want to see that secondary phase turning back into the primary phase. What usually happens around those points is you get a change of direction on the sort of lower time frame first. So if we take a look at the example back down through here, and I'll sync that as well, and we come down to the 4-hour time frame here, what do you notice about price? Well, price forms that sort of higher low price action. Okay, how is that then on the 15-minute time frame? So we'll zoom out and down, and we come back to this area here. What happens on the 15-minute time frame? Very, very similar price action going on right now. You've got this kind of aggressive downside move happening, and then a break of that structure, and that break of that structure comes in and around here. Price then forms support at that structure and then pushes on to the upside. So that's something to consider right now. You know, if you're looking to be long that market, can your lower time frame be the catalyst to kind of give you an idea of when that's going to happen? So at the moment, the current 15-minute high is around 1.7940. So you want to see price breach that first, make a sustained new high, then look at it as a potential. Let's have a quick flick over here. This is EURUSD. This is EURUSD right now. But yeah, that doesn't look like it's anything I want to do right now with that. Let's head over to gold. Let's see how gold's been affected by all of this. I like the idea of being bullish gold today. I am in a long position on gold as well. Let's have a little look at how the stock market's taking this. Actually, stock market's taking this pretty well. Again, what does that mean? You know, does it mean that the June cut is back on? I don't think so, but you know, does it give a little bit more into that? Let's have a quick flick over to see if that's affected anything on the CME Fed Watch tool. You know, after yesterday's announcement, we had a big change in the June meeting. So it was priced in around about 50.8% in the June meeting, and after the CPI announcement, it fell to about 20 point something percent. Now we're down at 18.6%. So despite that PPI number, the market's not really pricing in that June cut still. It's still more likely to see no change at the moment. Okay, so that's always something to just keep your eyes on as well. So yeah, let me flick over to gold. So that's the NASDAQ. Okay, here's gold. Here's gold. And I liked the 4-hour time frame today. You know, for me, I like to see price come down into 4-hour lows of support and resistance, and then I like to see if there's any kind of, again, any kind of price action around that allows me to kind of try and get into a position. So yeah, I like gold opportunities still. You know, would I be looking to kind of trade this beyond these highs? Absolutely not, you know, because we've got physical areas we can see on the chart that tells us where sellers have gotten back involved with the market. So if I was long in here, I'm only targeting previous highs. Okay, that's all I'd be looking to do. Looking at the 15-minute, again, what can we sort of pick out from this? You know, is the market starting to change sort of trend? You know, we're breaching through trend line resistance. We've breached sort of these swing highs in here, and then the market's come and retested it, and we're holding those at the moment. So that could be a good reason as well to be involved with gold. I am long off of this candlestick in here. So if I bring down my trading terminal, I will show you that in here. Okay, so you can see that off that candlestick there, that is where I've got involved. Just above that candlestick is where I bought, because I'm trying to anticipate price moving to the upside. First targets, I'll take some off here. Oh, am I back? Oh, I can just see that I lost internet for a second there, so I don't know whether I'm back or not. Which is weird, because I'm not on Wi-Fi at the minute. Or shouldn't be anyway. Can everybody still hear me? I thought the internet was playing up yesterday, but it's playing up today instead. Or Tuesday. Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll continue for now. If it goes again, I might have to cut it off. But so yeah, like I said before, like the idea of being a gold buyer right now. You know, if we look at the higher time frame areas of support and resistance, we've got these highs in here. So anything around 23.52, I think I'd be happy with taking some off the table at that point. But we'll see. We'll see if that can continue up. Silver could be a big one, obviously. Like the idea of being a buyer of silver as well. Very underrated at the moment. That's the gold silver ratio. Bitcoin's had a decent reaction from that. Not trading that at the minute. 10-year bonds above that 4.35% level. You know, if the bond yields continue to rise, that can have a positive impact on the US dollar as well. So be careful of your bond yields. Keep an eye on those. It could be a factor in interest rates as well. So this is oil. This is US oil. So this is WTI. Okay, so this is not Brent. Brent's the sort of one that has the buzzword around it at the moment. But I'm looking at this 4-hour chart. I like the price action going on here. I can see that obviously we've got sort of a base of support here. The only thing concerning me right now is we've got lower highs coming into this potential area, which, you know, can often lead to a breach to the downside. So I need to be careful on this one, because if we were to see a breach lower, then the next sort of areas around about sort of $84. If we look at the daily chart here as well at the top, you know, you've got this kind of high here around about 83.70, 83.80, which could be of interest. So yeah, I like the idea of being long oil. If price can kind of stabilize here and find some support, then that would be something I'm interested in as well. But yeah, is this TradingView? This is TradingView. Yeah, I use TradingView for the live streams because I can split the chart like this as well and show you that. But a big swing on euro. When is Lagarde coming up? Lagarde speaking at 3:15, but we've got the ECB press conference coming in a minute. So expect more volatility around that event. So let's flick back to euro. Still within that range at the moment. Still within that trading range. Right then, guys. We've been running for about 45 minutes. That's how long I like to run for. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for everybody for chatting today. I really appreciate all your comments and questions and things like that. Be careful. We've still got some more data coming up for the rest of today. So you can see that my internet's kind of being a little bit shoddy right now. So I'm not going to continue to stream for longer now. So give a few shout outs, Right Guy. Thank you for joining today. Vincent, CG, Marlos, Bongo, Mr. Tucson. Thank you for jumping on. Percy as well. Too Quick, thank you very much. Cello, thank you very much. Yeah, so thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate you coming to watch. If you could leave the stream a thumbs up, I would really appreciate that one. And hopefully you have a successful end to your trading week. I'll be back on Tuesday, and I will speak to you then. Cheers, guys. Thank you.